I'm Harley. I'm really happy to be here. I've been watching from afar Creative Mornings Ottawa grow into something really amazing and compelling. I'm honored and humbled that they asked me to speak today. And I hope that today you guys learn a little bit. You guys are interested in what I'm talking about. I should probably tell you that none of this is original content. I stole everything I'm going to talk about. But I'm going to put it together in a kind of interesting way. And I hope you guys will challenge me in the Q&A session afterwards on some of my assumptions and some of my hypotheses. Cool? Great. The other thing I'm going to say is I know that these sort of talks are usually a bit of a monologue. I actually am going to use this opportunity to do a bit of surveying as well. I sort of feel like you guys are a really good demographic of, young, hip culture makers. And so if it's okay, I'd like you to participate. So as you guys know, the topic for Creative Mornings right now in 50 cities across the world is the future. And I thought, given what I'm interested in, I would talk about how technology is eating the world. And I mean that in a very positive way. And I kind of want to go through some of these ideas about technology eating the world. Anyone know who this is? Mary. Other than her name is Mary. Anyone know who that is? Okay, this is a lady named Mary Meeker. Mary Meeker is currently a VC, venture capitalist, at a law firm called Kleiner Perkins, sort of a tier 1 law firm in the Valley, pretty well-known law firm. They've done very, very big deals. But I don't want to talk about the VC side of Mary. I actually want to talk a bit about what Mary calls these industry reports. And as a side note, Mary her claim to fame, or I guess defame, was in the late 1990s. She came out with a new metric. She was an analyst at a firm called Morgan Stanley. And she decided to start evaluating technology companies not based on revenue or profitability, but actually based on eyeballs and page views. And all of a sudden, you had this shift, particularly starting at Morgan Stanley and then going across Wall Street, where all these internet companies, particularly companies like Yahoo and Pets.com and Webvan, if you know those companies, were now being valued strictly based on how much traffic they were getting, despite any revenue model whatsoever. That turned out to be a really, really bad idea, as some of you know. And Mary Meeker actually was sort of, in terms of what happened in the media, she was fairly demonized and became someone that was at least assumed to be partially responsible for the tech bubble. Years later, however, she sort of found her groove again, and despite the fact that some people don't agree with this eyeballs equal valuation type of modeling, she is someone who has a really great eye for technology and technology trends. And more importantly, each year she puts out something called Internet Trends. And today I want to kind of walk you through Mary's most recent internet trends. And what I'm going to show you guys is sort of the status quo, or sort of where it is today or yesterday, and where it's going in the future. And what I'm going to hope is, as I put up each slide, those of you that are using the future, as far as Mary's concerned, just please raise your hand, okay? And we'll try one just to start. So she calls it the reimagination of everything. So computing devices, right? Changing from from desktop to mobile. How many of you are primarily using computing devices that are mobile and tablets today? Okay. How many of you are using that as your primary computing device? Okay, so quite a few of you. So again, I figured this would be a good crowd to kind of get a bit of a survey from, and that seems to be the case. So the way we interact with hardware is different. We've gone from things like using a mouse and using a keyboard to using voice and gesture. How many of you are spending more of your time communicating with this hardware using gesture and voice currently today? Okay, so less so, but that's good. Connectivity obviously has changed. All of us now are constantly connected. I assume that if I ask this question, all of you would raise your hands, so I'm not going to do that. But knowledge has also changed, and we've gone from things like periodicals and Encyclopedia Britannicas that get shipped to us once a year to constantly updated real-time data that's free, like Wikipedia. Show of hands, Wikipedia users? Okay. Bit of a side note, Encyclopedia Britannica actually sold their last hard copy encyclopedia on Shopify, which is, I think, kind of ironic. And now they're only selling PDF copies of that. Another funny story, there's actually a store on Shopify that literally has saved every single article on Wikipedia and printed it out, and you can actually buy the entire collection of Wikipedia, which seems sort of ironic in the wrong direction, but anyways, someone's doing that. So photography has changed. I'm not going to ask this because I see most of you taking pictures. Anyways, so things are different, right? Now we've gone from having very specialized equipment that only a few people knew how to use and a few people can afford to all of us being amateur photographers, for better or for worse. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'd probably agree that it's for worse. No cats, but a lot of me eating and stuff like that. So navigation also has changed. And actually, when I put this in there, I was thinking everyone's going to assume that when I say navigation has changed, they would mean we're using GPSs. And actually, that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is initially we went to a store and we bought a map, and that was it. And now what we're doing is we're actually crowdsourcing maps and traffic and directions and weather. And we're getting these updates in real time. That's very different than what we had yesterday. Show of hands, who's using crowdsourced navigation? Okay, so less so, but still quite a few of you. So the news and the information flow. That's the picture of a flight going down in the Hudson River. The fact that we actually found out about a flight going down in the Hudson River right by Manhattan from Twitter before the Associated Press or CNN could cover it, it's fairly disruptive, right? It's very different than what we've seen in the past. But that's happening right now. And citizen journalism is actually becoming a lot more prevalent. I think that's cool. So, Evernote fans in the audience? I assume this is a pretty Evernote heavy crowd, yeah. So I'm actually using a hybrid of the two. I still use a Moleskine and a pen because I like the design of it and I like the way it makes me feel when I actually write something down on paper. But I am also using Evernote to take notes. And what's interesting about that is I'm no longer walking around with a pen and paper. I'm walking around with my iPhone and I can take a note and it's synced to all my different devices. I think that's really great for someone that does take a lot of notes, and it seems like some of you are in that camp. Content organization. So when I initially heard about Pinterest, I actually thought it was, I didn't actually get it right away. Until one of the investors from Pinterest told me that human nature is actually to collect things, that we love collecting things. We like collecting stamps, we like collecting antiques, we like collecting baseball cards. So when I sort of heard that analogy or that explanation of why Pinterest is so compelling, that made a lot of sense to me. I also like collecting things as well. And Pinterest has sort of taken out those scrapbooks that I'm sure none of us really use anymore and have created and have allowed us to move our scrapbooks over to Pinterest. Show of hands, how many of you are using Pinterest? I assume, yeah, okay. Funding. I'm going to talk a little more about this later on when I get into the future of retail, which is the meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about today. But before I get there, funding has changed. Years ago, you either had to have a rich father or a rich neighbor or know someone that had some money in order to raise money to build a company or for a project or for an event. And today, with things like Indiegogo and Kickstarter, crowdfunding is exploding. Show of hands, how many of you have actually raised money using a crowdfunding platform? So a couple of you have done that. That's great. So this is a little bit close to my heart. As some of you know, in my past life, I was a lawyer, a very unhappy and miserable lawyer, but a lawyer nonetheless. And for us, legal signatures and document transfer is very, very important. And even a profession that is so anti-change and that holds on to the status quo, they're actually changing as well. And that's making a big difference in even very traditional professions like legal. And health awareness. We've now gone to the quantified self. How many of you are wearing one of these on your wrists? Wow, I'm the only one? Okay, cool. This is called the Jawbone Up, but there's a Nike Fuel Band as well. Wow, okay. So I actually expected a lot more of sort of these Jawbone Ups and these bracelets on your wrists. But what's really interesting about these devices is that I now have a much clearer view of how much I walk a day, how much I run a day, what I'm eating every day, my calorie intake versus my calorie expenditure every single day. We've gone from health being something that is fairly obscure and kind of in the realm of professionals. And if you wanted to know how you were doing, you went to go see a doctor. Today we're actually democratizing that and taking it into our own hands. I think that's that's really cool. Education is different. How many of you have taken a MOOC, whether it's Coursera or it's Khan Academy? How many in the room have done one of these courses? Wow, it's quite a bit. Yeah, and frankly, these things are amazing. Even for those of us that are lawyers and have gone to law school, the fact that I can actually take a course in anything I want from people that are the best in the world at those things, that is really cool. So education is changing as well. and even door locks. Have you guys seen this Lockatron? This Lockatron is a Kickstarter project. You literally just put it over your door lock. It fits on almost every door lock, and then using your phone, you can actually unlock the door from anywhere, no more keys, right? You guys will probably be more familiar with this one here, which is the Nest. Do you guys have Nests? Anyone? Wow, okay, so quite a few of you in here do have Nests. So what's interesting is we're seeing this, all these things that we use daily in our lives and all these major parts of our life, whether it's education or it's funding or it's communication, all this has been disrupted by technology. And the reason that as consumers we can use these things is because technology has democratized the cost of these things. Right? We're all familiar with Moore's law. Things get smaller and they get more powerful. They also get less expensive. So the fact that all of us are able to use most of this technology that really was that originally was built for experts and professionals, and we all can use these things on a daily basis, it's amazing. And the only reason we can do that is because technology is eating the world. It's making it cheaper and easier for all of us. So this is a letter that Zuckerberg initially wrote when Facebook was about to go public, and he talks about sort of the reimagination of the way people connect with each other. And obviously Facebook is trying to create, and they're trying to be the evangelists and the biggest supporters and ambassadors of connecting people around the world. And they've done a really good job of that. But for me, I think of something a little bit different. I spend my time in retail with Shopify. I get the privilege of working with 55,000 online stores and businesses every single day. And I can watch them grow from 0 to $10 million companies. I can watch two guys in San Francisco have a really passionate idea about building a moleskin-looking iPad case to the extent they go out and make a prototype, and now they have Dodo case. And I can watch companies realize their dreams that it was never possible in the past because it was too expensive, it was too difficult, and it wasn't accessible to all of us. And so you sort of saw what Mary thinks about the future. I want to tell you guys about what I think of the future, particularly as it relates to retail. The reimagination of retail and how technology is going to eat the world. I cannot begin a retail conversation about the future of retail without actually talking about mobile. Mobile is massive. Can I swear here? Mobile is fucking massive. The numbers speak for themselves. The fact that 24% of all transactions on Black Friday happen on a mobile device is absolutely crazy. It's crazy. All of a sudden now, all of us are able to shop in real time, 24/7, without any restrictions whatsoever, and the experience is actually pretty good now. It wasn't always that good. We were typing in our credit cards and our addresses in our mobile phone. It was actually a really shitty experience. It's now getting much, much better. Just to give you some context, now this is the market, right? This is the US market share for Black Friday. Shopify's share was almost the same thing on Black Friday. It was closer to 20%, but it's very, very high. It's more than doubled in the last year. We've gone from 14% to 24%. That's incredible. So mobile is definitely playing a huge role in the future of retail. So that's the first underlying assumption, that mobile is big. But actually, I think what's even more interesting is this. People are talking about how online is taken over and offline is dead. People are talking about showrooming. People are talking about how things are changing for large retailers, how they have to become more entrepreneurial. But I actually have a very different proposition for you guys. I don't think online is going to eat offline. I think the future looks like retail. No e-commerce, just commerce. Whether you buy online and you pick up in store, or you buy in store and you have it shipped to you, it's all just commerce. And this artificial E in front of commerce is going to be dropped. It's not my original thought. eBay has been saying they want to drop the E from e-commerce for many, many years. But I believe that's finally going to happen in the next 18 months. It's going to change drastically. I'm just going to read you a couple. I don't want to get these numbers wrong. They're very important numbers. So I'm actually going to read, and I hope you guys will excuse me for that. But I want to read it to you. So a study just came out 3 weeks ago by Accenture, one of the largest consulting companies in the world. And there's a couple numbers that came out of that report. It's a long white paper. It's like 100 pages. All you need to know is the next couple of numbers, because I think that actually makes the case. Accenture found that 50% of consumers believe that the best thing retailers can do to improve the shopping experience is to better integrate the in-store, online, and mobile shopping channels. No big surprise. But an overwhelming 90% of consumers said it's important for retailers to let them shop for products in the way that they want, no matter what. Also, after purchasing, 81% of consumers said it's important for a retailer to enable them to pick up or arrange for delivery any way they want as well. There's a bit of a trend here with these stats. The numbers are staggering. They're upwards of 80%. But the theme of all these different stats is consumers want choices. We don't want to have to walk into a store. We also don't want to have to use a mobile device. We want to be able to decide whatever is most convenient for us. That is democratizing. The retailer isn't necessarily the one telling us what to do anymore. Now we have an opportunity to tell the retailer what we want. And as a community of consumers, we actually can dictate what those retailers need to do. They need to rethink the way they're doing things. Have you guys heard of the term showrooming? Yeah? Okay, just one? Anyone else? Okay, so for those of you that don't know what showrooming is, it's actually the best way for me to explain it to you is what's happening right now in Best Buy. People are going into Best Buy stores all over the world. They're playing with cameras, they're playing with video equipment, they're playing with the stuff that they sell there, and they're getting the fuck out of the store. They're going into the store, they're playing with all the devices, they're asking questions, they're getting demos, they're feeling the weight and the texture of the camera, and they're getting out of the store and they're buying it online. That's what showrooming is. So we're going to see stores, in my opinion, shrink down to sort of what the Rogers stores kind of look like. You walk into the Rogers stores, there's kind of a couple phones to look at, you play with them, you don't really buy anything, you kind of get out. Showrooming is happening. And a stat they found in terms of showrooming is the survey found that as an online shopping continues to grow as a consumer preference, there is a mutually beneficial relationship between stores and online channels. 73% of respondents indicate that showrooming is here to stay and it's the practice they prefer to use. Not all of us are ready to buy a camera without feeling it, but showrooming allows for both to happen. Now, showrooming isn't an online thing, nor is it an offline thing. It's just commerce. It's just retail. It's all one. And so what we've seen is in the past, all of us were buying offline, and very few of us, trendsetters, hipsters like you guys, were buying online. Today, it's actually a little bit different, right? The pendulum is swinging. A lot more of us are now buying online as well. But I think the future is online and offline converge, and there's no separation, and it doesn't even matter. So that's my hypothesis. I want to tell you guys about a theory that I have, and it has to do with this sort of convergence of retail. I believe that you need to do 5 or 6 or 7 things in order to build a business today. Okay, not online, not offline, just generally a business. The first thing I think you need is you need to raise some money. You need money, you need some capital. You might not need a lot, maybe all you need is $100, but you need some capital. And the democratization of fundraising has happened through Kickstarter and crowdfunding platforms. It's now easy for anyone to do that. The barrier to entry to fundraising has been lowered. 1. 2 is you need a sample. You need a prototype. You need something tangible you can show people and get some feedback. Well, 3D printing has now made prototyping really easy and really inexpensive. Next, you actually need to be able to sell something somewhere, whether it's online or offline. Someone has to actually go to your store and make a purchase, give you a credit card, and have the money transferred into your bank account. Shopify has done that. We've democratized the shopping experience in that respect. But after the people buy something, you actually need to ship it to them. You actually have to send the physical product to the actual consumer. And that's being democratized too. One of my companies years ago was called Smoofer.com. It was an online t-shirt retailer I started when I was in law school. At the time, I went to fulfillment companies all over the world to ask them to fulfill my orders for me because I had to go to class. And every one of them said the exact same thing. There is a minimum order. We will not ship out your goods unless you're shipping 5,000 goods per week. That was everyone's minimum requirement. Today, there are no more minimums. You can go to Shipwire in San Francisco, you can go to FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, there are no more minimums. You can send them one product and they will ship it out on your behalf. So even the fulfillment side, after the purchase is made, has been democratized. Barrier to entry is lower, it's less expensive, it's much easier. And then finally, even customer service. You can outsource those things, not necessarily to foreign lands. You can do it in Canada. You can find amazing companies that all they do is run customer service for other people. And guess what? There's no minimums. If you get one phone call a year, they will answer the phone saying, Smoofer.com, how may I help you? So all these different pillars that even 5 years ago were a lot more expensive, a lot more difficult, a lot more challenging, that's all been democratized. It's now easier. The flip side is it's also a lot more competitive. That's where creativity comes in. That's where companies need to figure out a brand, a culture, a following. Because it's easier for everyone to do it, everyone does do it. And that also, as I mentioned, creates some new challenges. So that's the pillars of retail as I see it today. But there is some good news as well, and we've already seen the good news start to happen. So this is the retail labor force from 1950 to 2009 in the United States. And you can see very clearly a dip in how many people were employed in the traditional or the conventional retail definition right after the bubble burst. You had your decline, and it's been on the decline since the tech bubble burst. retailers have been freaking the fuck out for 12 years. And for good reason. If they're going to be dinosaurs and they're not going to change the status quo and they're going to stick to what they think they know, they're going to lose. We are going to eat their lunches, we being the entrepreneurs. We're going to smoke these guys. That being said, things are starting to get better. And you're seeing, even since 2010, as these retailers start acknowledging that things are changing, that showrooming is here to stay, that they need to have a mobile presence, they have to be online and offline, they have to allow the consumers to shop the way they want to shop. We've actually already seen uptake. It's happened that quickly. They realized that something had to change, they've changed things, and things are getting better for them. But what I'm most excited about, beyond anything else, beyond technology getting better, beyond things getting cheaper, easier to use, is I'm excited about the rise of the small business. I am a small business entrepreneur before I'm anything else, and many of you are. I know quite a few of you. I care about the small business. The fact that on Black Friday, Shopify's small merchants, our small businesses that operate stores on our platform, were able to beat out the likes of Best Buy, Target, and Walmart is fucking cool. It really is. The fact that Shopify's platform was the third most popular platform in North America for Black Friday and Cyber Monday is really amazing. And the reason that we can compete as small businesses with these behemoths, even though they have massive economies of scale that we will never ever have, is because technology gives us these amazing tools. Social media is free. It doesn't matter how much money you have, it matters how much creativity you have. Doesn't make a difference. Building a community is not expensive. You just have to be creative. We are changing things and we are making it much more difficult for these behemoth, hegemonic corporations to compete with us in a retail model. Which means that as a consumer of cool stuff, it's very exciting. I don't have to go through 3 different intermediaries to buy a pair of glasses. I can go directly to the manufacturer, Warby Parker. I can do the same thing with razors. I can do the same thing with shoes. I can do the same thing with t-shirts. I can go directly to the person that created the actual item. I can give all the money to them, and they give me a better experience and a better price. I think that's really amazing. So one of the things that we're thinking a lot about, and I'm thinking a lot about right now, is how do we help more of these creators and curators expand their business, scale their business? How can we do more of that? What do we have to do with them? The point being, with this technology getting better, and us as small business becoming more creative, we have this retail revolution on our hands. It's not going to happen in 5 years. It's happening right now. This is happening as we speak. The big retailers are struggling. The small businesses are becoming more creative, and entrepreneurs, I think, are going to win this thing. So this is where I'm spending a lot of my time right now, and I think this is what the retail revolution is all about. That said, I think we're in the retail revolution right now. I think it's very exciting. I think the next couple years are just going to be incredible for small businesses and for the retail industry. That's it. Thanks, guys. We're foodies, we go out a lot. So there's currently kind of this rise of the food truck, right? Where anyone can get their own food truck. You can actually rent a food truck using a crowdsourced application in San Francisco for an hour, for a day. And so I think the first thing I thought about when I saw this sort of food truck phenomenon happening was, very cool. Now we're gonna have a lot more choice. But I've been to a lot of shitty food trucks in the last couple of months. People that would have never been able to make it more than a day, would have never been able to get investors to invest in a brick and mortar restaurant, are now able to sell their wares, sell their food. And that is dangerous. But what it does do is it creates, because we have all this other technology as well, we get this crazy feedback loop. So I can go to Yelp and I can say, this food truck sucks. And I can read what food trucks are amazing. So you're right, there will be more failures, but there will also be more opportunities. And through a lot of those failures, I think we'll have more people emerge as successful the second time around or the third time around. We believe one of the sort of central tenets of Shopify's culture is fail fast and fail often. I think the same thing applies to any entrepreneur. I've had way more failures in terms of my own companies than I've had successes. I've been lucky that the successes have mostly covered most of the failures, but I've had a lot of failures on my hands, and with every failure I've learned a lot more. So I do think you're right. We're going to have more failures now because the barrier to entry is lower, therefore you have more people crowding the plate. But that being said, it just forces those that want to be incredible and be the best at what they do to be so much better. Because if I have a shitty food truck experience, not only am I not going to go back, but my 5,000 followers on Twitter are not going to go back either. And that's dangerous, but that's also a huge opportunity. If you are not an accredited investor, you are not allowed purchase equity in a random company. Okay? Kickstarter and Indiegogo do not allow you to buy equity. You're effectively doing pre-sales. You're buying something and saying, when this is produced, I will buy it, I will purchase it. There's something in the US called the Jobs Act that is trying to go through the House of Congress right now. That is hoping to change the fact that as a normal human being, I can go and I can give someone $5,000 and he can issue me shares in this company. But that's not the case. Currently, Indiegogo and Kickstarter allow you to do pre-sales. I think that that is going to evolve quite a bit. I like Kickstarter. I bought a beautiful iPhone 4 dock 8 months ago, or a year and a half ago, excuse me. I got it 8 months ago after I had the iPhone 5. That isn't a great experience for me. But I do like the fact that as a small business entrepreneur, if I have an idea for something, I can put it out there on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and I can get social proof. If 5,000 people each give me $10, that means that I do already have some semblance of a market and a community that do want my product. And so my view right now of Indiegogo and Kickstarter is that they're less about investments and more about getting social proof that your idea actually has some legs. And I think that's something that's never been possible again. I have 5,000 people that are saying, Harley, if you build this, we will buy this. And I think that would give me the confidence. It's very agile because if no one wants to buy my product, maybe I shouldn't go into that business. And that goes back to his point. I now have more information in terms of what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing. But I think that's where it is right now, and hopefully eventually it'll become equity-based. But I listen to vinyl. Why do I listen to vinyl? Because I appreciate the nuances of that sound. And I think those of us that do care about music, even though there's great tools and technology, we may still go to something that's a little bit more traditional. So I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I think that we'll always have those little niches of people that say, I want to listen to vinyl, the sound is better. So that's a really good question. Have you heard of, I'm just going to give one example, and there's a lot, but have you heard of TaskRabbit? Okay. So TaskRabbit basically allows me to go online and say, I need someone to pick up my dry cleaning and go buy my mother a birthday cake, right? Pretty great, right? My mom likes it too, because otherwise I may have forgot to get her a birthday cake. That opportunity, and I can put up my bid, how much am I willing to pay for that? I can also put up, I'm looking for someone to clean my office, right? Whereas before, I had to call some big company like Domus here, the big cleaning company here in Ottawa, and they would come in with a purchase order and some guy in a tie and short sleeve button-down shirt, which looks atrocious, and they would pitch me on a long-term contract for Shopify's cleaning. Right. Now I can go on and say, I'm looking for someone who can be here at these hours, here's what I'm willing to pay, and I put it out there. I think services are also changing. So as a lawyer, and I brought a friend of mine there, Chase Berger, who's a lawyer in Miami, here with me today. Chase left a big law firm, a massive law firm in Miami, to start his own thing, because no longer was he relying on the business development services having a big company. He can now go take ads out in different places, mostly online, and he can actually drive real business to himself. So now instead of paying $400 an hour for Chase, I can pay $150 an hour for Chase. Maybe that's a little bit low. Sorry, $200 an hour for Chase. Okay? I get the same service at a better price, and he makes more money. I think services will go that way as well. So one of the things I find fascinating, now I'm just talking about online, so forget offline, online is, if I go to Cadillac Fairview, which is the company that owns the Rito Center, and I say, I want to buy a store on the second floor next to Apple or near Lululemon or whatever, they're going to say, great. It's $80 a square foot all in with expensive utilities and all that, or $50 a square foot. And then I'm going to pay them that money, which will be tens of thousands of dollars. And what do they give me? They give me two things, right? They give me the location, but they also give me street traffic. People will walk into my store because I'm located in the Rito Center. You don't have people just walking by online. And so people forget that. They assume that if we build it, they will come. Well, that is the case if you're in the Eaton Center or the Rito Center. That's not the case if you just have an online store. You have to figure out a way to get people in the door as well. And I think that's something that we're just now coming to terms with, that, again, if you build it, they will not come. You have to figure out a way to get them in there. I think the only advice I would say is, because things are so easy to use and they've been democratized and they're less expensive, we can try out a bunch of different things. We're seeing now stores that are opening 3 stores that sell the same product, but they're going after different verticals. One's going after moms, and one's going after kids, and one's going after dads, and they're selling the exact same t-shirt. It's for the teenager, right? But they're hitting different type of demographics, and they're trying it for $29 a month. And if it doesn't work, they shut it down. But at least now they can create a bunch of different stores with different verticals and different marketing and different appeal to different demographics, and they can figure out what works. I mean, that's what the agile, lean, MVP, throw in any additional buzzword you want there, is all about. It's the fact that we can go out there, we can put something out there, and we can test it, and we can iterate it, and we can test it, we can iterate it, and I think that actually is a really cool opportunity. I think someone that thinks that they're going to make a new type of water bottle and put it online, waterbottles.com, and people will come. They may come because you got a good domain, there's some SEO juice there, people will probably search for it, but other than that, you're not just going to get street traffic, right? In the online world, you have to direct people to get there. So I think that is, I think that's a long answer to a short question, but I think my answer would be the fact that you can try out a bunch of different things is the way that you can actually create your own individual proof of whether or not that's something you should pursue. I did start my entire presentation by telling you that nothing in my presentation is original content. So that maybe can give you a hint of what I think about copyright laws. I mean that I mean that, right? Like, I believe that I can grab someone else's content and I can work it out in a very different way and I can add to it. So there's a famous, fashion is a pretty famous industry for intellectual property because fashion cannot necessarily be copyrighted. Basically, you take a pair of jeans and you cut a hole in it, and now it's another pair of jeans. Then you put a really cool patch on the back, and it's another pair of jeans, right? So that's the way I think about technology as well. I don't necessarily agree with software patents. I think that there's a lot of people out there that the second I register something as a software patent will come and try to troll me, right? Software patent trolls. But I do think that we are seeing a lot of Me Too companies, right? So someone creates a photo sharing app that allows you to put a filter on it, and another company creates the exact same app with a filter on it, except it's social. That's the difference between Hipstamatic and Instagram. Right? Hipstamatic had great filters, had great functionality, but Instagram made it social. Now, if Instagram would have looked at Hipstamatic initially and it would have said, look, they're already doing it, let's ask some lawyers and let's go ahead and figure out if this is kosher or not, they probably would never have created Instagram, and we know which one won. So my feeling is, as an entrepreneur, we have to take things that are out there and sometimes mine them for different ideas and concepts, but as long as you're building on that, I'm okay. Putting on my lawyer hat for a second, that's a little bit different, right? But you have to sort of depend how risk adverse or how risk preferring you want to be. And risk tolerance, by the way, should be something that changes throughout your life. When I was 17 years old, I thought I knew everything. I was taking a lot of risks that at 30 years old today, I probably wouldn't take. So I think that risk tolerance needs to change. But from an entrepreneurial perspective, if there are good ideas out there and you think you can make it better, go for it.